everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Inside Art of Seeing series, where we speak with inspiring artists from all over the world who have an extremely strong passion for creativity. My name is Aram, and my co-host Hanan is also here with me, all the way from Oman. We are both past Art of Seeing participants, so this episode holds a very special place in our hearts. We are very excited to announce that our first guest is the one and only Peter Sanders. CD Peter has been photographing for more than 50 years. He has traveled all over the world, and he recently published his book, Meetings with Mountains, which took almost his entire lifetime to complete. Welcome, CD. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
I'm good. Enjoying being locked up.
I wanted to actually start just by asking a little bit about how you feel in this time with the coronavirus and being quarantined, and what is your opinion and experience with being isolated or being having a lot of time by yourself, secluded?
It's an interesting question because I'm kind of actually enjoying it. I had kind of been in a kind of self-imposed retreat for about 3 months before this anyway, because I've been traveling a lot and doing the tour up and down UK and been across the States. I thought I actually wanted to sit still and just kind of think about what I was doing and what I was going to do during the next few years. You know, we just finished Meetings with Mountains, which has been a mammoth project. And I was thinking, okay, now, obviously I'll carry on promoting that, but what am I going to do next? And I need to sit still because every time you travel, it's a bit disruptive. So then this thing happened and I thought, okay, it's carrying on. And there's something about when you accept it, there's something very comforting about it. I mean, for me, I don't have to go anywhere now. You know, people always want me to go somewhere, do this, do that. I'm saying I can't go anywhere. So I'm actually at home just working away and trying to, you know, I've just started work on my Chinese book. And, Meetings with Mountains took 50 years. And I've already laid the book out. I could finish this book probably in about 2 months. So, yeah.
What would you say to someone who is really struggling right now with, being isolated, being quarantined, someone who really just can't be by themselves?
Yeah. You know, there's a certain process that happens. I've done a couple of retreats in the past. You know, one was a 10-day one, isolation. And the thing is, for the first couple of days, you're pacing around. You feel like a tiger in a cage or something. And then after a few days of pacing around, you just you accept your destiny. And then, you get on and then you start, actually, this little cage is quite nice. And, oh, look, the sun is shining through. And there's a process that takes place. So, especially those of us who are used to running around at a moment's notice, it's just a matter of accepting the situation and then doing something with it.
Yeah, I love that. Hanan, did you have something to say about that as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to, actually just going to pick your brain a bit, Sidi. So yeah. I'm just thinking there's not probably many people, there's probably a few people that are sitting around editing because they've actually got a body of work or they've got a lot of things that they need to kind of look back on. And then there are some people who are they just want to shoot and they can't get out right now. Yeah. And just thinking some kind of advice, or if you were to put yourself in their shoes, that kind of question is more what I'm getting at here. How would you advise those that are budding and just want to get shooting, or what would you shoot right now if you weren't editing and looking at laying out your next book?
Oh, I'd probably drive my family crazy, dressing them up and doing portraits and, right. I mean, who's ever here? I mean, if you're by yourself, I don't know, what would you do? Start photographing yourself? I'm not sure.
Yeah, selfies all the rage.
Yeah, I guess I would. I mean, it would be a great opportunity just to really get into portrait photography if you're stuck at home with your family or something. I mean, really understanding light, natural light, whatever, just watch. I mean, once you actually accept the situation, you start to see things quite differently. And that's what I said, it's letting go of that, oh, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. well, you can't. So you have to accept the situation as it is. And in that acceptance is, I think, there is a lot of freedom once you accept it.
Right. So if I'm to ask you, like, I mean, from what you're describing, and I'm just wondering about yourself personally right now, would you say you're kind of almost building momentum, but more spiritually or creatively, rather than, because I know we're saying we're not able to do much,
Yeah.
but in terms of your, it's not literally just sitting there doing nothing. I know there's probably a lot going on. So what are you involving yourself in? Are you just, or how are you involving yourself, I guess, with the stillness part of it all?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, it forces you, being contained forces you inward anyway. Then what do you do with that state of being more present? Then you have to be creative as a human being. That's in our nature. You know, that's a gift from God to be creative. And we as creatives have to express that, otherwise we go crazy. And I think there's a lot of things I'm working on. And now I'm busy doing all these kind of Zoom kind of meetings, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it's being forced very quickly to work out how to do everything I do online, which is a challenge in itself, but it's obviously easier. You know, as someone said, we're not being asked to go to war. All we've been doing asked is to stay at home. You know, and that's different than my parents who had to go out and fight a war, you know. So, I mean, we've just been asked to sit at home. I mean, you could just sit on the sofa and watch TV, but you'll get very bored within minutes, especially if you're a creative. You need to use that thing that God's given you to do something with. And my daughter, who's, you know, she's turned into an incredible cook. I mean, one of Hafsa's dreams is always to have her own personal chef. She's got one. We're sitting down to these delicious meals every day. It's just like I'm like at my favorite restaurant. This is like, could life get any better, you know?
Maybe moving to food photography as well there.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I could do, yeah.
Can you also tell us a little bit more about the time of isolation that you willingly put yourself in?
Yeah, I did a retreat. When I was living in Kent for some time, looking after a Japanese house for somebody, and I did a retreat in there. There were people looking after me, so they were bringing meals to me. I didn't see anybody. It was like 10 days or something, and I was just sitting there doing dhikr and meditation and things, and just in isolation. And as I said, that's where I understood that process about initially you feel like locked up, but then after you accept that, and it just becomes a lot easier, and it becomes very beautiful. You have very light sleeps, but they're very full of dreams. And yeah, so I've done a couple of them in the past.
Amazing, mashallah.
But also when you said that, there's a couple of times I've been arrested. And that's a kind of isolation, a different kind of isolation.
Yeah, no, tell us please more about that as well.
There was, in the early days of going to Morocco, we always got arrested, especially if we went down to the desert, because it was a very sensitive area. This is in the 70s. So I was always getting arrested. And I think one time there was a group of us, we all were all put in prison overnight and stuff. And I mean, we didn't make it easy for us. We were all wearing robes and turbans, you know, and we had white faces. So it was a bit of, you know, I would never do that now, but it was just kind of, of course, they became very suspicious. I got arrested in China and interrogated for about 7 hours. Things happen. It's part and parcel of being a photographer, I think.
Yeah.
You just get to, you know, these things are challenges, and you just have to be patient.
Yes.
It gets resolved.
Yeah. Also wanted to ask you if there is some photo or work that you did that kind of reminds you or defines this whole time period in a way. I'm
Where,
not sure.
where we are now?
Sorry?
Where we are now?
Yes.
Well, I think, you know, that the picture that's on the front of in the shade of the tree of the man praying by himself in front of the divine name, because that's kind of our situation. You know, who else can we depend on for all this that's happening? We have nowhere to go, really. I mean, this is a time to really cultivate whatever spirituality you have and yearnings for a higher thing to really to put into practice.
Yeah.
And those things, that doing those things will affect your creativity. You know, all great artists always spent time kind of removing their ego or removing their self, so that that creative energy can flow freely. I think the other picture that I just posted it as an Instagram recently was this picture of is a man called Sidi Khalifa, who's a beggar from Morocco. It's a picture I did in the early 70s, and he's blind, and he's standing very upright with his staff, dressed in a jalaba and turban. And it made me think of these, there's lines in the Diwan of Sidi Muhammad Habib about wearing the twin shoes of fear and hope.
Yes.
And the turban of patience and the staff of certainty. And that's where we're all at the moment, really. I mean, I think, and I was thinking about that this morning, you know, fear of God, what does that mean?
Yeah.
We need to be fearful of maybe just decisions that we make sometimes. You know, sometimes we make a decision that's not a very intelligent decision. So it's just, you know, we're given freedom. You know, we're given freedom to do basically whatever we want. But with that freedom, we must tread carefully. So that's the two things. It's a counterbalance of not having too much hope and not having too much fear. And I really like that image. It's a very comforting image.
Yeah, I love that.
Can I just jump in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to kind of stay with this as well, Sidi. So, like, because we're kind of talking as artists and about creativity as well, and with COVID-19, definitely as an artist or a creative, I guess there's a huge symbolic side to this, that after it's all said and done, it will be quite, people come up with all sorts of metaphors or allegories, and for yourself as well, maybe COVID-19 or this disease, a bit like Spanish flu in the past as well. People look back and they can give it all sorts of labels. I know right now, and it's quite easy to polarize views, some people are seeing it as a curse. Some people actually are seeing it as a form of a blessing, maybe even, in disguise, very disguised. And others are kind of, I guess, refusing to label anything about it because of kind of the state they're in as well. For you personally, how are you kind of viewing this, I guess, major event we're all in the middle of right now? For you, how are you seeing this?
Well, I think the things you mentioned before didn't really affect me that much, but I don't know anybody that hasn't been affected by this. And it's not anything that we can see. And, you know, you think about all these countries that we live in with their big military forces and, you know, all our wealth, we've all been reduced to the same situation. And it is I think for many people, it's a very fearful time. And I can appreciate that. But I think, I don't know, there's so many things that you know, the story of Abraha when they were going to send the elephants to march on Mecca, and the birds dropped the small pebbles and were able to defeat the army. And it's like, it's so powerful that you can't avoid it. I mean, you have to see the majesty of this thing that's happening. And we have to process it somehow. I think being too fearful doesn't help, because that's almost worse than the virus itself. You know, it's very easy. I'm like this, you know. Someone was telling me about this disease they have in Malaysia and Indonesia that's worse than malaria. It's like a new strain of it. And I happened to ask the person, what are the effects? And they described them exactly to me. The next day I had all the symptoms, and I realized that by asking her that, I opened myself up to that. And the next day I experienced it. And so we have to be very careful what stuff we're putting in. I mean, obviously we need to take good advice and do what's suggested. I'm not saying that, but we shouldn't let the fear overtake us, because that stops us being true human beings. And it's again finding that balance. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation, really, and it really makes you turn. If you have a belief, it really makes you turn towards that. And you know, if you got the illness, then you would deal with it, you know. But fearing about getting it is not going to help you.
Yeah.
And that's the point, you know.
It definitely shows you this whole new meaning of fear, and it allows you to relate to, again, how you're saying fear and hope that we need to have as Muslims or anyone who believes in God.
Yeah. I saw this, it was something, it was in a film or something, and a guy said to his friend, you look at life, worry, 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 then you're dead. He said, I look at life, happy, 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 then I'm dead. And it's like a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds very easy, but the point is, a lot of worry is about what if this happens, what if that happens? You know, the mind gets caught up with these what ifs. Now, if you remove the what ifs and just deal with things when they happen, you know, in your life, when crisis suddenly happens in front of you, you deal with it, you don't think about it. So it's just a matter of turning the brain to working on more positive things, being creative, thinking how you can use this time wisely, do all the things you've been meaning to do. I'm going to clear out my loft. I've been talking about this for 5 years. I'm going to like blitz that place. And they're kind of, you know, things. I'm doing creative things with photography, and just use my time wisely.
No, I think one of the things I'm definitely hearing from you is a lot of what you are going to be doing and what you are doing. And I think that's really important, people's self-talk, rather than what I can't do and what I'm restricted from. I know we kind of opened with that, but really it is about what I am doing, what I needed to do, now should I do it, and just all the things to stay on that of doing, and just being focused towards actually being active and not thinking I'm restricted and limited, I can't do this, I can't do that. Because it just doesn't foster the right brain.
If you think you're restricted, then you're restricted.
Exactly.
And that's, you know, that's how the mind plays tricks with us all the time. And I mean, I don't know, it's my imagination, but the weather is just incredible.
No, I agree with you.
I mean, I can hear birds. I'm seeing animals I never saw before. It's like constantly Sunday around here. It's just so really, I mean, and it's also the blessed months, you know, we're just coming. Are we already in Shaban or something?
Yes.
So you know, this is happening in the time Ramadan comes. We're going to be so primed, really. I mean,
yeah.
You know, usually Ramadan comes as a shock. We're in the middle of our very busy lives, but this year it's going to be very different. So
that's very true.
But also it'll be different because you can't go to the mosque, can't socialize with people. So it's going to be like more of like a retreat.
Yeah.
But there'll be a lot of benefits if people just accept it. It's not, you know, I don't think it's going to go on forever, but we don't know when this will end.
I think one of the things, that's about the only thing you can be sure of, right? It is going to end.
Yes.
So just stay with
and
that
we need to take the opportunity of the gifts that are being given during this time, and not sort of once it's up, rush back to, you know, what we were doing before. I mean, just not seeing all these planes flying across the sky is amazing.
Oh yeah, for you, that it really is amazing.
Yeah, and then also it makes me think, well, how many trips do I do that are slightly unnecessary, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the planet must be breathing a sigh of relief. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Actually, the pollution has gone down a lot.
Yeah, they say there are blue skies in Beijing, which is, you know, usually go there, it's thick smog.
Yeah.
The fish returned into Venice waterway. I mean, there's a lot of things happening.
Has your relationship with your family been affected in any way?
No, I think we've just really got into a routine. It's almost like, okay, this time we go out and have a walk, this time we have supper early, you know, like we're just kind of, this time we're all working, you know, we just kind of got into a kind of really healthy routine. I'm really enjoying it. It's good.
It's, in a way, I feel I've seen so many families just are brought together through this. And
yeah.
I don't want to use the word forced, but you know, you're in this space together, and you have to really work together through the issues and problems, and spending more time together in itself, you know, brings more happiness in the home.
I think it's harder for my daughters in London to find it difficult because they're used to coming to see us and stuff.
Yeah.
But, we have Skype calls and we talk to them regularly and stuff.
I have the same issue. I have my parents live about 15 minutes away, and I'm not really able to see them. And when I do, you know, it's from a distance, only for a few minutes, just to pick something up.
Yeah.
That can get very tough. But again, you know, you have to look at the positive side of everything.
And like today, we'll have a Skype call with all the grandkids, so that'd be nice, and see them all.
Yeah. So. Hanan, what about your experience with that?
Well, I'm actually living in Oman, Muscat. So I've been away from the family and people for quite a while now, since maybe September. So as my wife was saying, we've already been in self-isolation for almost 6 months. We were ready for this. So yeah, so you're asking the wrong person, but yeah, we're quite used to the whole group Skype, or we're using Zoom now, and WhatsApp group calls and all the rest. You know, part of me might think it's even a social media conspiracy, all of this, to get everyone using all the tools that are available online, because by the end of this, we're all going to be super users, expert users, and all of this stuff, aren't we?
Even me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I teach and I also use social media quite a bit, but not to the extent I've had to do now. And I have an IT background, but even I'm like exploring and finding so much new stuff and learning so many things. So so really, again, it's just been a really positive experience so far. And
that's great.
Yeah, so there's that side. But of course, I can imagine for some people, you know, if you're very attached, as I'm sure we all are, once you have certain relationships around you, if you've been removed from there in an instant, that adjustment is probably going to take a while. If, you know, like we said, we don't know how long this is going to go on, but the main thing to know is you're keeping them safe by staying away. So that's the comforting thought, I guess, that keeps it going, you know. How about yourself? I know you said that with the mum and dad, but about your friends, and I'm sure you got your big circle that you meet up and have dinners with every week.
So it's me and my husband, and we try to spend the most time together. We don't try to see anyone else, really. Again, if we do, it's just from a distance. I haven't seen my friends in a while, so that's been tough. But honestly, I've had a good, positive experience overall. I'm generally a more, I would say, I don't have issues being by myself or spending time alone. So I've been able to really, you know, write more, get back into the creative side of things, and just, you know, understand myself too a little bit more. I feel like you're forced to become more self-aware.
Yeah,
that's,
definitely.
The best part that
interesting. Sorry, interesting. I just realized you're not the photographer, you're the writer, aren't you?
I guess I'm both, but I need to pick up on photography a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you so much, CD, for being here.
Pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Sidi. Good speaking to you as always.
Inshallah, lovely to see you all.
Thank you all so much for tuning in today. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you'd like to stay up to date with who will be joining us in future episodes, make sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts, including Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So if you'd like to access those accounts, make sure to check the description box. We will link them all in there. If you have any comments, suggestions, let us know. We are very excited to hear any and all feedback. Thank you again. Have a great day.